important. So let me start
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Okay. I am with Stephanie Robello. Is it Awa or Ava?
It's Awa. It's
Okay.
actually Chinese.
Oh, wow. Okay. I never would have guessed.
I, I found out there's three different nationalities with the name Awa. There's Hawaiian, there's Japanese, and there's Chinese.
Seems awfully short to be Japanese.
Yeah, I don't know, but there are. Um, I mean, that's what I was told. So
Makes sense. I mean, it could very well be. I wouldn't know for certain either way. So
yeah, and I mean, growing up for my husband, people because they see he's Hawaiian, they would call him Ava, and we're not going to correct them. So it's okay because they know we're Hawaiian. So
yeah. So normally, I guess, would you say you are actually a Las Vegas resident temporarily in LA, or are you a LA resident temporarily in Vegas?
I am a Las Vegas resident temporarily in LA.
Okay. Helping out your Ohana, right?
Yes, my
Okay.
daughter called us in 2020 and she asked us to temporarily help her because she's a single mom. So we said, okay. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
when when my mom retired from work, and I said, "Oh, you're retiring?" And she says, "I'm not retiring to watch your kids. I did my duty already." I said, "You're a mean grandma. I'm going to be a good grandma." And so I live to my word. And when my kids say help, I'm there.
Right on. Right on. Good. So let's get a starting point here. What grade you started Kamehameha?
I started in third grade.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And the year when I started, my brother started too. So we both got in the same year. So he was in first grade and I went to third grade.
Isn't he just a year behind us? Or is he two
Two.
years?
He's 2 years. Yeah.
Okay. How many siblings do you have?
Well, I have, there's a total of seven in my family, but my mom was married twice. So she had three children and left that marriage. And then she eventually met my dad, and then she had four with my dad. So seven
Okay.
total.
Now, knowing both you and your brother in high school, I've been a little bit curious all these decades. Your Stephanie, he Steven, were they trying to follow some kind of theme
My dad,
or
well, the story, my dad said he always wanted a daughter named Stephanie, and I was first. And so then when they had my brother, they said, okay, Stephen. And then my sister is Sharon. And then the youngest one, my youngest brother, was between Shannon or Scott. So they chose Shannon.
there's a
And so
radio guy named Shannon Scott, so they could have just
could be, yeah. And my dad referred to us as his four asses.
just got to be careful how you pronounce that, right?
He pronounced it that way on purpose.
Uh, okay, so where did you do kindergarten to second grade?
I went to because we lived in Pacific Palisades, which a lot of people called the boonies of the island because there's only one road in, one road out. But it was above Pearl City, so they didn't have a school when I started kindergarten. So I went to Pearl City Highlands Elementary School, which they nicknamed Peaches.
Wow.
So yeah, I went there kindergarten through second, and then my auntie, which was good friends with my parents, told my mom and dad, "Hey, are you testing your kids for Kamehameha? Because we are." And my dad's like, "Oh," and she said, "You better hurry up. The deadline's soon." So he went and he applied us to test, and my brother and I got in, but my auntie's kids did not get in. So felt kind of bad, but
Oh well.
grateful.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And how about your two younger siblings? Did they end up going?
my youngest brother did get in. He graduated 81. And my sister, I know something about the test. She just worked her way into getting sick, where she'd be like having headaches or vomiting, because she just was so afraid that she didn't do well. But she got in her senior year for her senior year. But at the end of the year, you have to send report cards and everything. So Kamehameha called my dad and said, "Oh, we can't accept your daughter because she graduated early."
Oh, lost some video. Maybe bad connection. We'll give it a couple of seconds and see what is what is what. You back?
I'm back, sorry.
Okay.
But so yeah, I was saying that they didn't accept my sister because she had D's and F's on her report card. So my dad said, What's happened? How come you got D's and F's?" She said, "I don't have D's and F's." Pearl City High School sent the report card for Colleen Robello instead of Sharon Robello.
Whoa.
So, but by then it was too late. So my sister didn't get to attend at all.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And
Huh.
for my
Okay.
mom's first marriage, her youngest daughter, my sister, got in. Actually, she got in from first grade, but she graduated in 1966. So
Okay.
her senior year was my brother's and my first year. So she would drive us to school, and we would meet her friends at Kenny's coffee shop and have breakfast before we went up to school.
That could be a early education, hanging out with high schoolers and
Yeah. Yeah.
mm,
But I mean, that was like um, my sister. I don't know. She attended, it was called Senior Cottage.
okay, yeah.
So
I
they would
remember
do
hearing
where
of it.
they would live in the dorms and they would have to take care of somebody's baby. And so she's not married. She's never had children. I think the that had a negative reaction for her. No kids.
Well,
So
best to learn early on.
yeah, yeah,
I drive a school bus and they have that program at our high school where they take that little fake baby home
yeah,
overnight. And I
yeah.
mean, they get on the bus like it's a knapsack, it's a backpack or something. I mean, they got it, back here and baby's bouncing. I'm going, okay,
You know?
you know. I hope the teacher sees the recording or however they measure the fact that the baby's not being treated like a baby. But
Right, right.
yeah, you
But
know.
maybe it's better that way. We already, I mean, I cannot imagine how moms felt comfortable giving up their babies for young girls to raise for a few weeks. But
It seems like there'd be a little lack of experience, perhaps.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Well, I mean, those of us that made it through those times, because I know, you and I were in the generation where no seatbelt,
Right.
or you're laying in the back window ledge of your car as your dad's going down the road swatting your siblings, and I mean, just we
Or
survived a lot of
yeah.
crazy stuff.
The seatbelt was the reach over from whoever was driving.
Yeah, like they would be nearly strong enough, right, to hold you in place. But we're here.
We are.
We're 50 years graduated. When we graduated high school, where did you what did you do first? Did you go for more education or?
Well, my parents said no girls can go to mainland colleges, only boys. My dad has two rules, the girls' rules and the boys' rules. Like, girls don't
Oh,
play
okay.
sports. So I was never allowed to participate sports. So I went to UH in Manoa. Hated it, hated it, hated it. Um, I pretty much flunked out my first year. And when I went, I remember it was by alphabetical order. So the earlier part got to register earlier than I did. I had the later dates, and a lot of the basic classes were taken. So I had to take anthropology, I forget what it was, and political science two. I always remember political science 251, and I was like, what am I doing in this class? But when when I went to see Mr. Mountain when we were seniors, right, planning our career path, I told him I want to be a stewardess, and he said, "Oh, okay, you're going to UH Manoa and study TIM, Travel Industry Management." And I
Oh,
think I
okay.
took a TIM class my freshman year, and I was like, I don't want to be a manager. I just want to be a stewardess. So I dropped out of I dropped out of college after 1 year. And then I went to work at Polynesian Cultural Center in the Waikiki office, reservations.
Hmm.
And
Now, to become a stewardess, then you need to have that little degree thing, or is it a
I don't
requirement?
I don't think I needed it, but I know my dad wanted me to go to college.
Mm.
So I mean, that's what we did, but I hated it. And then um, after 1 year at Polynesian Cultural Center, I got laid off because they said, we're closing the Waikiki office. So your options are you can work in Laie or we lay you off. And I
Oh,
said, well, because at that time my mom was having bladder surgery. And I said, well, you know what? I'm going to just get laid off because my mom is going to have surgery and I want to be able to take care of her. And I won't be able to do it because I didn't have my driver's license yet. So I said,
oh, so
I
you're
can't be
catching bus?
catching bus. Yeah. But when I was working at PCC, I did rent apartment with a couple of co-workers. And one of them was uh, well, her name was Lovena Pagay, but we called her Ala Pagay. She was class of 76. So
Sounds familiar.
yeah, she's from Maui. She's from Maui.
Mm.
And so we lived together, and at one point we lived in Waikiki, right across from the Ilikai kitty corner to the Ilikai Hotel called the Trade Wind Apartments. And so, but when we got laid off, she went because she was dating Carlson Kukona, who was class of 77.
Yeah, I remember
So she
Carlson.
went to live with Carlson, and I went back home to Pearl City. But when I told my manager at PCC that I wanted to take care of my mom, he says, "You wouldn't be lying to us, would you?" And I said, I was taught never to lie about people's health. And so he's like, okay. So they laid me off, but they were actually lying to us because they never closed the Waikiki office. They just relocated it from the Bank of Hawaii building to the new Royal Hawaiian Shopping Center. So, but it's
Were
okay.
they just trying to cut down on staff that way by what do you think their plan was? I
I
mean,
I don't know, but they did rehire new girls because I did stop in one day, and but the difference was I was not Mormon, but the new girls were all Mormon. So
okay.
I don't know. I don't know the facts, but you know what? It led me on another path, and I went to HCC after that. I went the spring of '78. I started, and I mean, in between, my uncle, my uncle was Chuck Burrows. He was a science teacher at Kamehameha.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, he's my mom's half brother. We have a lot of halves and steps in our family.
I think that's
So
just Hawaii.
yeah, yeah. And he said, "I think you'd be a good teacher." And I was like, "I don't know, Uncle." Well, I pursued early childhood education when I went to HCC, and I got a part-time job working at Kauai preschool. And so I would go to school, I would go to Kauai, and then after school, I would work at the Napualani Hotel in Waikiki.
Now at Kauai, were you like a para or aide or some kind of thing like working with the kids?
Yeah. So,
Okay.
yeah, teacher's aide. Yeah.
Awesome.
And so, and I really enjoyed it. But the other thing that happened at HCC was I met my husband. And so we got married in 1980. In fact, May 25th will be our 45th anniversary.
Hey, that's my birthday.
Oh, yeah?
Good
See?
choice of date.
And we got married just like this year. It was on a Sunday. So it's easier to get locations. So we got married on a Sunday. And the Monday was the holiday. So people could have fun and not worry about going to work in the morning. So, yeah.
So he was just another student, or he was in your class, or what?
I met him when I first started at HCC. This gentleman who was a student, he was in a wheelchair, and he wheeled up to me and he says, "Hey, you should join our Hawaiian club." So I was like, "Oh, that sounds interesting." And he goes, "In fact, you should you should try out for the May Day choir." But and so I joined the club. I got on the May Day choir, and I met my husband. And the following year, school year, he was elected president. I was elected vice president. And um, but it's kind of funny, kind of relating to what Kathy Thurston's story and Ray Fujikawa's story. I uh, I was dating someone else when I met my husband, and I thought because he's older than me, he's 11 years older, and I thought he would be a good partner for my oldest sister. And I thought, how can I set them up? And then I had a dream that he told me that if I ever broke up with my boyfriend, he would be there to pick up the pieces. And it kind of all fell in place. So
Now, so your husband, okay, I'm trying to do the math and the timeline here. He apparently went to college later, or,
yeah,
for
my
there to be 11 years difference. I mean,
my son, when he was like 7 or 8, had that conversation with me. He said, "Mom, So when you were kindergarten, daddy was high school? And I said, yeah. So how did you meet dad? He said, I met him in college. You mean dad flunked that many years? I said, no, your dad signed up with the National Guard. And, because it was during Vietnam time, um, and he volunteered, but they didn't send him to Vietnam. They sent him to Korea to play volleyball. So I'm grateful he didn't go to Vietnam, but yeah, he went to Korea. So then my son's like, "You mean Daddy was a GI Joe and I didn't even know that?" Yeah. So I said, so he used, he left. He got into the fire department, and then he used his GI Bill to go back to college. And that's when I met him, because there was fire science there. So he got a associates in fire science and in liberal arts.
Okay.
Used
So
up all his
was he a career fireman then?
yes, yes, yeah,
Okay. So did you run into some of our firemen classmates at
yeah,
fireman things or
yeah, yeah. I mean, um, he also played. He played volleyball, and so there was always these firemen Olympics, and he
mm,
would travel all over. I went with him to Canada, Vancouver, Canada for his Olympics,
wow.
and then one in Las Vegas. But he also went to Colorado and New Zealand. So I
Oh,
didn't get
that's
to
kind of a nice
go on
benefit.
those. Yeah. But, I met Earl, Walter Rosehill. Um, I know there's more, but I'm just blanking. But
And
yeah,
then I know just top of my head, I know Ed Simeona a year above us was a fire
yes,
person
yes,
and
yeah.
Kapala was Kapala in the fire department?
I think he is on Maui,
Okay.
but yeah, um, yeah. There's a lot of firemen. In fact, shoots. There's a Kenny Silva. Kenny Silva. He's the I want to say 78. He graduated in 78, and he ended up being my husband's chief, because he started off as a fireman, but by the time we had our third child, he was in the fire prevention bureau, so more in the administrative part, and then eventually Kenny Silva became his chief while he was captain. So,
Oh, okay.
but yeah, lots of Tommy Perkins. Tommy Perkins was also in the department, and
I
yeah,
think Gordon Kamara, a year or two behind us.
yeah.
I don't know if he was Steven's classmate or if he was.
I believe yeah. Now that
uh,
he was, yeah, is. So yeah, a lot of firemen, a lot of Kamehameha graduates. So,
So tell me how, or have you lived anywhere else besides Hawaii and Vegas?
um, we, my daughter, well, she works in the film industry. So she was doing I can't remember if it was a TV show or a movie, and she had to move to New Orleans. So we lived in New Orleans for maybe about maybe a half a year, maybe 5, 6 months. We lived there for short term. She almost was going to move to New Mexico this year, but um, it what happened is because she's single, she had her daughter has a father who lives in California. If she were to move because of California laws, she would have to leave the daughter with the dad. So She
Oh,
chose
wow.
not to move there, but they said they would still allow her to work from LA and maybe just fly up there 1 week, 1 week a month. And so, but that she was supposed to start that job this last week, but they pushed, like a lot of um, shows, movies, TV shows, start dates get pushed back and end dates get pushed back.
Yeah.
Schedules are never set in stone.
You talk about New Orleans. My wife and I lived there in 95, but we actually lived across the river in Gretna,
Ah, okay.
if you're familiar with that. So it's west of New Orleans. You got to cross a bridge to, yeah.
Is that bridge was that by you know the French Quarters where you that bridge where you can also take a ferry? Was that the bridge?
No, it was a little further north. If you knew
Ah,
where
okay.
Caesars was,
Where what
Caesars
is?
Caesars Palace, I think, or was
You know,
it a
we
Harrah's?
never passed that. I know we live really close to the stadium, the Superdome.
Oh, okay, yeah. You guys, I think we're south of us.
We lived off of Magazine Street, which was a pretty famous street, I think. But a lot of activity there. We would hear bands going down the street a lot.
Yeah, well, that's how they do their funerals. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
wild.
yeah.
Were
There,
you driving while you were living in New Orleans?
I let my husband do the driving.
Because I
We
can't
did a
remember. There's some kind of strange no right turn in some sections. I mean, no right turn at all. Red, green, whatever. You just don't make a right turn. It's a kind of
hmm,
complicated getting around sometimes. So
yeah. We didn't usually when we did drive around was with our daughter. She took us. I mean, she took us through a lot of sightseeing places. My husband's really into history, so we went to the War Museum and we spent hours there. she she took him there for his birthday, but I know he appreciated it. He would like read every caption, every story, watch every video, and I would just sit down and another history lesson.
you can give me the short version after you learn it all.
I would just sit with my granddaughter and she ran around in circles like, you go.
Uh, okay, so New Orleans and where else?
Those are the only places we lived.
So how did you end up selecting Vegas?
um, well, uh, long story short, my dad, after my mom passed in 2013, and my dad had gotten a reverse mortgage to help us out, and he wanted to get rid of the reverse mortgage, and so he wanted to sell to one of us. He wanted one of his four children to buy him out. We had family discussion, and because my dad helped three out of the four of us, um, of course, my dad chickened out in facilitating the meeting, so he had my husband do it. So my husband told Shannon, Dad helped all the rest of us at one point or time. You should have the first option if you want to buy the house. And so um, Shannon said yes. So we actually have a house in Captain Cook on the Big Island,
Oh,
but those that my husband's grandmother said this house will go to this house is going to go to you, and his aunt and uncle also said our house is going to you too. So we got two houses in Captain Cook.
Wow, that's fortunate.
Yeah, and the aunt and uncle's house, when we got the house, and after uh, well, his grandmother never made a will, right? Typical um, grandparents in those days. No need, no worry, you're gonna get it. It's yours. And so, but the family all knew, because he always helped the grandmother out in times of need and would pay for things. They all knew, we're not going to contest. This belongs to Gid. And but when his auntie passed away, he took the uncle. He's like, because we were doing it was in 2001, we were doing our last will. I mean, setting up our will for our kids. And um, we also drew up the paperwork where their uncle sold us the property for $10 and love. So we got that property. So we can never sell it, because we're going to die in capital gains. It's an acre and well, it was almost 3 acres when we got it. So, um, but we ended up selling the grandmother's house to his cousin's son, to keep it in the family. And I mean, we weren't there to make money out of it. We sold it to him for 200. and um, and but we spent a lot of money. We had to tear down the uncle's property because it was left unattended, because his family fought us in court. And we spent a lot of money in lawyers' fees trying to settle. But he built the house for his cousins and his youngest brother. His youngest brother had had 3 strokes, and he was living in San Francisco at the time. So we flew him back to Kona, and we built the house for his family to live in. And so when my brother ended up buying the house, because if he didn't buy it, then we would have bought it from my dad. And we had gone to the VA to see about getting a loan to buy a house. And they said, because we had another house mortgage, we could qualify for $300,000. So he said, well, we can afford a studio condo if we stayed here in Honolulu. But in Vegas, for $307,000, I got a 5-bedroom, 4-bath house. So my sister and her husband lived there with her youngest son. My son wanted to move up there, my youngest son, because he had a job offer. So we bought a house. We bought the house. We weren't ready to retire, because my husband was he was doing contract work for the city. So I told my sister, if you stay at the house, you take care of my son, 500 rent. And she's like, okay, we'll do it. So
Your sister was already living there before you guys?
was because her husband worked for American Airlines,
Oh,
and
okay.
they shut down the Honolulu. When he first worked for American, he lived in Dallas. And then they opened up Honolulu, so he moved back to Honolulu. And then they said, we're not doing it. We're going to shut down Honolulu. You want to live in Dallas, LA, or Vegas? He said, I'll take Vegas. And so, yeah, my sister and her youngest son moved there. Her other 3 boys lived in Honolulu. Her daughters lived in Dallas. So she took care of our house, and in fact, she's taking care of our house now. And our youngest son, is living there too.
I was kind of curious about that because your stay in LA has been a little extended. So I thought, wow, their grass must
Who's
be
taking
like
care?
6 feet tall, and hopefully she
Oh
doesn't
no, we
have
have a really
animals.
strict HOA.
Makes sense now. Makes sense now.
but
So how
but
when was the last time you were in Vegas?
um, just before Easter, we
Oh,
we
okay.
drove we drove over just before Easter, and then earlier this year, I go to Vegas to take care of business, take care, change security system, change internet system, um,
Gotcha.
and between there because and I mean for me, I'm lucky because I eventually ended up working at United Airlines, and I started there in '91, and I retired in 2014.
What did you do for them?
I started in reservations, and then um, and when I started, we weren't union yet, and then and then I went from reservations to kind of overseeing the reservation floor. So not answering calls, but just monitoring. So if we have too many calls on hold, we just tap a few buttons and send the excess calls to Chicago or something. Um, and then the union approached and they wanted to get reservations and customer service involved in the union. And I thought to myself, okay, if we do go union, I have to be in a position because when I was working at United, I said, eventually we're going to move to Kona. So I have to position myself in a place where I can transfer. And there's no reservation office in Kona. So I moved to the airport customer service and ticketing. So, I went, I was there after my daughter graduated in '98. We took her to college. And then in spring of '99, I moved to the airport and stayed there till I retired in 2014.
Oh. When I asked, I was thinking, oh, she's gonna tell me she finally got in and became her flight attendant. But
Not well. Funny story. I think when I got laid off, I did live with my oldest sister who was living in Fremont, California. I stayed with her for a little while, and um, and I flew on one of those smaller aircrafts, but it was with, I want to say, PSA, which was, it flew up and down the West Coast. So, or maybe California. I forget, but I flew from LA to San Francisco, and I was sitting next to a little girl who was traveled as an unaccompanied minor, and they gave her a coloring book, and I was reading her the directions. And at the end of the flight, I just felt this, and I threw up right there on the plane. I didn't even have a chance to grab a bag. And the little girl stopped the flight attendant and said, "Excuse me, can you help her get cleaned up, please?" I was like,
who's
oh
taking care of who,
no.
huh? Wow.
I know. And so I just would get airsick. So I knew flight attendant was out of the question for me. So,
Oh,
but
yeah.
but it's okay because that's a hard job too.
You've got to really
So
be patient. I mean, I watch them as I fly, and I think, you
yeah,
you can keep that
yeah,
smile, but my smile, I don't think it'll last long enough for a decent flight because some people ask
yeah.
some
And
really tough questions or
I hear some horror stories. International airlines are a lot stricter. Um, like I met this flight attendant from, I think she was some Mexican airline, and she had made a comment about the United flight attendants being. She's trying to say it nicely, but that they were older. And I said, we do have that, yes. I mean, we had some in their 80s still working, right?
Wow.
And and she said for their airline, after somewhere in their 30s, they were no longer allowed to be flight attendants. They had to do administrative work. I mean,
Hmm.
they didn't have equal opportunity employment, right, in the international. And I heard another story about a flight attendant who lost her job, or she got into a lot of trouble because this one was a Japan flight, and he insisted she stop everything and peel his orange. And she was trying to serve all the meals to all the first class customers, and he turned her in because she didn't drop everything to peel his orange. So that wouldn't have been fun.
You probably would not have been smiling at the end of that conversation, right?
Well, I kind of got through, I mean, working at the airport, I got through a lot of delayed and canceled flights. I mean, we had a lot of when the pilots had their sick out. Thank you, Kevin. We would have to deal with the large crowds, and people would say, "How do you keep that smile on your face?" I go, "Implant."
Ooh, tough, tough,
But
tough.
we'll take gathering. I made a young man, wait in line because I told him, "You cannot swear at me. I don't deserve that." And because he didn't want to pay for his surfboard, so I walked away from him. And the my coworker next to me, he asked him, "Is she coming back?" And he goes, "She will. Just wait for her." And I came back and I said, "Okay, so how are you going to pay for that board?" And he whipped out his card. But I learned how to not how I can not take verbal abuse without breaking the rules of what I'm supposed to do.
Without slipping into tita mode, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Brah, hold on, brah. Let me tell you how it's gonna be. My smile will come back when we're done, but for right now.
Yeah, yeah. But
And how many kids you have, Steph?
so I have three. My daughter is the oldest. She went to Kamehameha as well.
Hmm.
She graduated 98. In fact, when she tested, Wayne Chang was there, and I said, "Wayne, every year at song contest, you keep dragging our class's names through the mud and talk about how we lost to freshmen. When are you going to give us a break and stop talking about us?" And he said, "When another class does it." And my daughter's class, the class of 98, their freshman year, beat the seniors, beat everybody in co ed. So I was like, redemption.
Got it back. Got it back.
Yeah. And but yeah, she's leads a very exciting life, but it also takes up a lot of her time. I mean, long days. I mean, sometimes they have a like like they'll start if they're shooting filming at the first day of the week, it's like 7 a.m. Then the next day they got to start later because they ended late, and then by the end of the week they're filming at night into the next morning. So but I have her, my older son is 2 years younger. He grad 2000. Same with Tanya's son, Kim Kianini's son, Susan Oi's son. In fact, he
Wow,
and
okay.
Susan Oi's son were good friends. And I want to say, actually, it was Tanya's daughter. Tanya's daughter graduated 2000. I want to say, my son and Kim's son, were friends as well. And my youngest son, um, he went to the lower campus. He went to Damien. he, he struggled through school, and once he finished high school, I said, I spent enough money on your schooling. If you want to go college, pay your own. But my
So
my
your
older,
middle son, what field did he end up in?
well, he when he was a senior in high school, his good friend's father was a recruiter for the National Guard. And I was like, I don't know. And he said, no, no, don't worry. He said, they only take care of the home. They only take care of Hawaii. Last time National Guard got activated was during Vietnam. And we know about that because my husband got activated. And I was like, I said, why are you doing this? I asked my son, and he goes, so I can pay for my own college. I said, I don't care if I have to sell myself on the streets. I will find a way to pay your college. And he said, no, Mom, I want to do this. I said, okay. And then September 11th happened, right? And sure enough, he got sent to Iraq. And that was like the roughest year in my life. I mean, I didn't watch the news. I didn't read any newspapers, and my son had to show us his will, and so my husband read it. I said, I don't even want to look at it, and but he made it a home safe. I still think he got PTSD, but he won't admit it. And he he was at kind of more in like networking, I guess it's computer stuff, right? And hooking up computers and phones. And so he was working a contract for a company called Process, but eventually got offered a federal job.
Oh, right on. There
So
you go.
he works for this federal job, and it takes him to, well, at first he was doing work in Nebraska. They would fly him back and forth to Nebraska. But now they fly him to Guam and Singapore.
Wow. Okay.
And he got offered a job in Singapore, but their oldest daughter, um, she was born, and 3 weeks after she was born, she woke up with two big bruises under her eyes. And I mean, it looks like the football players. And they took her to the doctor, and then the doctor sent her to the hospital, and she had leukemia at 3 weeks old. And they actually said after everything was done, she was pretty much born with leukemia.
Wow.
And yeah, and um, during the chemo, she the chemotherapy damaged her nerves in her eyes, so she was permanently blind, and it's irreparable. And I mean, chemotherapy, we know it kills the bad cells, we know it kills the good cells, but there's so many side effects. For instance, they had to wait out 5 years to because she could get the leukemia again within 5 years. She lived past that 5 years, but she could also get another cancer, another form of cancer within 10 years. And in 2023, it made her 10-year mark. So my son and his family, they threw a big party for her, celebrating 10 years cancer free. But the other side effect she got was a heart condition. She got it when she was 5, and then they kind of fixed. she got better, and then 7. But I mean, her heart is maybe at 50 percentile that it works, right? So she will, the doctor says, Stanford doctor comes to Honolulu every so often, and he said maybe in 3 years she'll need a transplant. But so when my son was working in Singapore, he got a job offer from another company that would pay him substantial money to work in Singapore. But first, they researched doctors. They have great doctors in Singapore. Then they researched education because my granddaughter is getting an excellent education from the DOE. She has an aide in school to help her navigate campuses because this year she went from her first year in middle school, so a totally different campus to learn. And and she also has an aide who taught her um, how to use the cane and how to get around, how to read Braille. And in Singapore, when they asked, uh, they kind of treat them as second class. Not, they're all in a room, all with other deaf and blind children. So, my daughter-in-law asked, so is she gonna? They said, oh, they become good friends and they communicate. How do they communicate with the blind? With the deaf. Or the deaf teach them how to sign. So, and so then they said, well, how did they told her, well, my daughter works on the computer and she emails her homework to the teacher. And the Singapore school goes, wow, she knows how to do all of that. So they knew right then and there. It doesn't matter that he made more money than the richest man on earth. They're not going to sacrifice their daughter's education for that job in
Yeah.
Singapore.
How many more
So
opuna do you have altogether?
I have four. I have four. So she has a younger sister who just got accepted to the fourth grade at Kamehameha for next year. So we're so celebrating.
But the
And
family is based in Singapore?
no, they're in Honolulu.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
they live in Eva Beach. They live in Eva Beach. So we're so proud of her, and she's such a good younger sister. She takes, even though you know, she's the younger sister. She takes care of her older sister as if she was the older one. And so I have those two. My son has two girls. Then my daughter has one girl. She's going to be 7, and then her youngest boy is 3 years old. He just turned 3, like the last week of April.
Wow.
So
Your
yeah,
life is going to stay busy for a while longer.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, I try to. I mean, granted, the first 7 years of my older granddaughter's lives, I spent majority with them. But now I try to go back and forth, and thanks to United Airlines, I can. So in fact, we're going this afternoon because my granddaughter is the Kapiolani picks a champion every year to go through all the islands and help fundraise money for Kapiolani Hospital. So she's going
Oh,
to Kona this week, Wednesday. And since we have family in Kona, we're flying today to um, Oahu. And then we're going to fly with them to Kona for the day on Wednesday. So Kalani Ching, come meet us at Costco
oh,
in
there
Kona.
you go.
Anybody else in Kona, come join us.
Right on, right on.
Yeah,
Wow, wow.
yeah.
Your life has been full, Stephanie.
It has. It has. And I all I need is family. That's all that makes me happy.
Yeah.
I mean,
Now, are you attending the reunion? Our
I am.
reunion?
I
Okay,
am.
okay.
I bought tickets I survived. I survived that scary online purchases.
Oh,
That
okay.
was, I mean, it was a headache, but thanks to Terry Maltaire Spencer, I was able to um, finally get through and buy my tickets. So
Is
I
she a airline person?
no, but she was texting me because she goes to church with my older sister,
Oh, okay.
and my sister, gave her like uh, gave her a gave her the good news about my granddaughter getting into Kamehameha. So she texted me, "Oh, congratulations!" And she goes, "Don't forget April 1st, 9 a.m." So got it. And when I couldn't sign in, I was texting her and Billy Cam. Hell, I don't know what I'm doing. And she called me and we got through. And then I texted Billy and they couldn't get through. So Al called Terry also and finally got through to buy their tickets. So
Wow.
it was kind of tricky. You didn't think it was tricky. Well, you're
Um, I didn't have, no, it seemed pretty seamless. I mean, the thing popped
yeah.
up. How many tickets? What kind of money you gonna send us? And boom. So
I struggled. But I will be there. I bought tickets for two for Thursday, two for Saturday, and just myself is going. So I mean, my husband could come along with me to Thursday or Saturday, or if there's a classmate who didn't get through and wants to, I could give them one ticket. But
oh, okay.
it's available.
Good. Well, it's out there.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
people have heard it. Steph,
So
it's been a fun time. I've enjoyed
yeah,
it. Um,
me too.
it's like I have real fond memories of all the excitement we had in 23 in the
Yeah,
Pacific Northwest too. So
yeah,
that was,
yeah. That was fun.
yeah.
Wait,
So you guys,
I
go
have a
ahead.
quick question for you, real fast.
Okay.
I see you looking in your annual a lot. Do you have that little extra pamphlet that was given after the annual was done? Was a few pages, had the prom, graduation. Do you have that
Mm-mm.
pamphlet? Because
I didn't even know it existed. So,
I could have sworn it was you and Lori Chow on the back of the thing, sitting outside of the Blaisdell in your dress blues and her in her graduation white.
wow.
You forgot that, huh? It
I
had
don't remember a pamphlet. So was it
it,
because of a printing schedule thing or something or?
that's what I think it was. It came out after we got the annuals, and I said, I'm pretty sure this is Kermit, but there's no acknowledgement who was in the back. But
Chances are it's not me because I can't picture myself mentally in my dress blues anywhere. So
I think they did it. I don't know, but it must have came after graduation because it included our graduation pictures. But it
who
was
would know is Rhonda would probably
Rhonda.
know.
Yeah, I have to. I'll bring
Oh,
it.
okay.
I'll bring
That'd be
it, and
great.
I'll show. We'll find out.
Sounds good. Well, you
But
guys travel safe and don't get unintentionally delayed by traffic or anything. So
should be okay. I'm good at Ubering, so.
awesome.
But
Mahalo
thank you so
again
much.
for sitting with me today this morning.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you so much for doing this, Kermit. I enjoy every one of them.
Good, good, good. We will see you in June.
We will.
Ahui ho.
We will.